I was going to tell a story about my attempts to find arrowheads that was basically started by Chris Pittman showing me that you could collect arrowheads down here in southern Massachusetts, but they tended to be made out of quartz. So I've been being creative about where you could go look for quartz. I've been driving to Yarmouth and looking for bare dirt, and I go from one place to another. I've been to several places, and at most places I find a little bit of broken quartz, and sometimes I even find a piece that I want to collect, like this. It looks like something was made out of it, but it's not a complete thing. And at this point I have a little pile of quartz fragments on my desk. I haven't paid much attention to where they came from because I'm not expecting them to be part of my collection. So that's the first story. Is just that I have these little bits of quartz lying on my desk. I haven't really, something like this, which I'll talk about more later. I thought it was, if it was anything, that it was the bottom of a blade and that it was snapped off here. You have to look at this part. See, this is the bottom of the blade. It was snapped off. Something that would have gone, this way, gone up like that. So broken. So why bother to keep track of where it's from? But it does encourage you. It says, yeah, you can find things made out of broken quartz most of the places you look, but at such a low density that the chances are slim of finding anything good. So that's my first story. And another part of the story here is that I've been sitting at home. I'm telling my wife about my week, and my week has been about smoking pot, hunting for arrowheads, and playing guitar, and I'm really having a good time. I'm enjoying myself. I don't know how long this could last, right? Yeah, I've lost weight. I'm healthy, whatever. But no doubt the clock is ticking. But anyway, so where was I? Yeah, I'm planning a trip out west, and I'm watching these YouTube videos about these Paleo-Indian traditions that are not Clovis and may even predate Clovis in the Great Basin area. And I'll show you. I want to show Barb a picture of a Hasket point, which they have these arrowheads, the biggest arrowhead ever found in America. It's like 11 inches long. Amazing, and not flaked the same way that a Clovis point was flaked, different. And I've been watching videos of this guy who's collecting things that are of the same genre as those Hasket points, but are called Lake Mojave points. And this is a side story here, but I wanted to tell Barb, here I'm going to have to show her the computer, and you won't be able to see it. But I click here. See the shape of that arrowhead? It's this shape. I was telling you about it, right? I was telling you where it's got a really long stem, and that's called the Western long stem tradition. And I was thinking, gosh, I really want to find one of those. If find a Hasket, how cool would that be? But I'd be content with a nice little Lake Mojave, even just a small one, because it's got such lovely proportions. It's a pretty arrowhead, or some of them are really pretty. Okay. So I was just thinking, gosh, I wish I had a Lake Mojave arrowhead. I'm planning a trip, and as I look at it, the drive from Sacramento to Denver passes through quite a few interesting glacial lakes. And I just learned by watching YouTube videos that you want to look at where the fresh water entered the glacial lake. As the lakes dried up, the places where the water was still entering the lake were very lush and open to the Paleo-Indian lifestyle. Anyway, I was really excited about that. So anyway, back to here on the Cape. I've been driving around, looking at all the farms, and there are very, very few farms on Cape Cod. And, looking a little further afield. I noticed, though, for example, that you could maybe look for arrowheads underneath a power line. And, you do find a piece of quartz here and there. I think one of these pieces is from the power line that we just took a walk under the other day. I don't know if you remember. Yeah. And I also noticed that, for example, the cranberry bogs along the Coonamessett River, that the bluffs of sand are eroding and are also being bulldozed along the sides of that river because they're extending the cranberry bogs or doing some kind of sand and gravel operation out there along the Coonamessett River. And I was thinking, that's where they find these Paleo-Indian sites, is when they cut through a bank of sand or something. or else you just find them by chance. And so maybe if you were looking for something, you could go along the Coonamessett River, along a cranberry bog, of all places. So, anyway, I looked further afield for farms, and for reasons which one could go into a greater length, I was looking up just north of the Cape Cod Canal, on the other side of the Bourne Bridge, at what's called the head of the bay. And it seemed reasonable that the lakes and waters that had been there and were the reason why the Cape Cod Canal was dug at that place had previously been a waterway that primitive people, early people followed. So you had a waterway route, a corridor that went from the north of the Cape to the south of the Cape through Bourne. And in fact, the southern end of it, the Apatuxet trading post in Bourne, was a place where they found lots of arrowheads in the ground. So I was thinking, okay, but somewhere on the northern end of that corridor, maybe I could find a farm. And I found like 2 farms worth looking at, and what looked like an open area. And so I drove up there, and everything turned out to be a disappointment. The open area was all overgrown, nothing to look at. I looked along a brook there. It was just gorgeous. Head of the bay, Red Brook, very pretty little conservation land. Charming. And actually that part of Massachusetts is pretty nice. And then I drove over to these farms, and they were all had fenced in, and I couldn't even get near them. So I was driving back and forth trying to find little bits of exposed dirt since I was up there, and I passed a cranberry bog. And it's the cranberry bog where they have those 3 windmills that you see on those big windmills on 495. I passed that cranberry bog. I go, well, okay, it's sort of like the Coonamessett River, and yeah, they're bulldozing bluffs of sand there. I should go out and get out and take a look, which I did. And I walked up and down for a while, and you know, all you see is sand and gravel. It's hard to think you're going to find anything. And don't get excited, I didn't find anything. But I'm walking along, and I did find an isolated piece of quartz showing the edge sticking out of the soil. I don't know if this shows. I'm sure it doesn't. This is not the right venue for it. And as I picked it up delicately, and I tried to video it, but the video didn't come out. And, no, it's a broken something. I don't know. Just another one of these broken pieces of a tool found in isolation in a sandy place, here and there, everywhere on the Cape, you know. So I just have it sitting at my desk. Should I throw it out? Should I throw it all out? But then, you know, you're looking at it carefully and you're saying, you sure you know what that is, or what? I thought it was a tip of an axe broken off, right? And I look at it some more, and finally I go, oh, wait a second. I get it. Okay, I get it. See, that's a triangular knife blade of some sort, right? Oh, wow, it's too bad it's so bright. Yeah, triangular knife blade, and it's just missing this corner here. So that's, you know, actually, it's sort of like an arrowhead if you look at it. It's more like an arrowhead. It's like a triangular blade. It's almost a complete piece. It's enough of a piece that you can comprehend what it might have looked like earlier. But coming out of the sand, could have been on the surface when they bulldozed, could have been underneath the surface when they bulldozed. It's not weathered in any way, so I don't know if it was on. It couldn't have been right on the surface. And so anyway, so I just thought, you know, if you look at it much closer, sometimes you can see something that you missed the first time. Maybe I should go back and look at some of these fragments that I've been dragging around. And I picked up this one here, which I showed you earlier that I thought was the bottom of the base of the blade. And I looked at it more carefully, and I realized that one edge of it here had been secondarily flaked with pressure flaking. You see it's much sharper, much finer serrations along that one edge. And when I noticed that, I started looking at it that maybe that was the tip of the working edge of the thing, okay? And that maybe, oh my gosh, look. It's a long stem, not very nicely formed, but it's a long stem underneath a little point. just like the Lake Mojave. And I can't even remember where I picked this up because I've been to too many places and I didn't pay attention. I'm sorry. Yeah, but it's sort of a joke. I still want to go find a real Lake Mojave. Meanwhile, this is actually a stone tool. And I look at some of these other pieces and I go, yeah, I can't say it isn't a stone tool. It's too symmetric and yeah, it doesn't look like much, but I guess it is something. I don't know. We're starting to accumulate a collection of extremely sketchy bits of quartz from everywhere, and I've got to pay more attention. And I'm gonna go pay more attention to the Coonamessett River tomorrow. You're coming with me. We're gonna go look at those sand bluffs, and we're gonna find some broken quartz. That's the plan.